This is PIC Computer Science video number 11, looking at utilities. If we try and define the term utility in general, we might say a utility is something that is useful in a practical way and might be something such as a service. And if we look at those pictures there, we might bring into mind things like our gas utility, our water utility, electric utility. So this is probably a term we've come into contact with already. But there's something called utility software, which is what we're interested in for this course. Operating systems usually come with some utility software installed on them. So when you put Windows onto a computer, in its control panel, it comes with some utility software in its systems maintenance section, and probably also its security section, as well as other parts. But you can also install additional utility software, such as this piece of antivirus software, on top of your operating system. General things that you need to know about utilities programs for your exam are: utilities perform a specific task. They're usually related to the upkeep or housekeeping of a system. You'd need to give a valid example, and we'll run through lots of good valid examples. We can say they're housekeeping programs, they perform common tasks, and they are programs to help the running of software, help the running of hardware, and help to protect the system. So what are valid examples? Valid examples include file managers, disk defrag programs, compression programs, backup utilities, and antivirus programs. We'll be used to using file managers, or file handlers as they're sometimes known, to be able to do various things with the files that we work with. So here's an example of the most common file manager in Windows, which is the built-in Windows Explorer. We can find files, we can open files, we can delete files, etc. using our file manager. So here's a screenshot of me accessing my home drive, my S drive, and here's an example of me deleting a file using my file manager. Here's a file manager that I like to use that isn't built into Windows. It's one that you can download for free and install on top of your operating system, and it's called Explorer Squared, and I like it because it has its split screen panes here where I can work on files in two areas at the same time. Key things about file handlers for the exam: these manage and organize data storage. They allow files to be accessed. They allow for the copying, moving, deletion, and sorting of files. They allow for the management of folders, and they can allow security and access rights to be placed on individual files and folders, so only certain people can open certain files. I mentioned earlier disk defrag programs, or to give it its full name, disk defragmentation programs. To be able to understand these, we need to know what disk fragmentation itself is. So I'll try to explain. Here in this diagram we've got three files, each of 100 or 60 megabytes in size. If we were to delete the green file, which was 60 megabytes, then a space appears on our hard disk. Then we would introduce another file. This fourth file is 100 megabytes in size, and it will utilize the empty 60 megabytes of space and then have to put the other 40 megabytes further on in the hard disk. Now this is a fragmented file, meaning that when that file is opened, the computer must read two separate parts of the hard disk. This means that files take longer to open and read. Defrag programs help to alleviate this by tidying up fragmented disks and putting parts of files all together so they can easily be accessed. The programs themselves might look something like this, and what you need to know for the exam is this: that disk fragmentation is where some files are split up into multiple sections. The computer has to find and read each part when opening files. This slows down the computer. The disk defragmentation program groups all parts of files together on disk so a file can be read in one go. Compression programs, sometimes known as archiving programs, shrink down file sizes so they don't take up as much space on disk. And there are some of the many compression programs that you can get for free and use for free, such as WinZip and WinRAR. To try and illustrate how a compression program might squash down a file, compress it, making the file size smaller and therefore freeing up some disk space. And we're going to look at this bitmap photograph. It's a high quality 800 by 600 pixel 24-bit color bitmap, and if we were to zoom in on the picture, we'll start to notice, and you'll have seen this sort of thing before, that the picture becomes pixelated. And the reason for that is that every single pixel, and there could be thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of pixels within a picture, each individual pixel and its color needs to be stored within the picture. Now this makes for quite a large file size, millions of bits of data all being stored. So that file, if I view it in Explorer Squared, is actually this number in bytes, which is just over 1 megabyte, so quite a large file. So to be able to compress it, I could right click on it and go to one of my bits of compression software, which is called 7-zip, and if I just say I want to add it to this file here, which actually says add to waymarker 800 by 600 24-bit.zip, although you won't be able to see that because it's slightly off your screen. Let me just see if I can fix that so you can see exactly what's going on. There we go. If I select that and the program whirs away, does what it needs to do, what it does is it puts that bitmap file inside this what we call zipped file, which is half the size effectively. But if we were to look inside that zipped file, we can see we've got the original file. And what it does is it takes our bitmap image and it works out where there are patterns in the pixels. So if there's a large area that we think is all the same color, it will use some maths, it will just store some measurements, and it will say instead of every individual pixel is orange, 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 it will say that these 100 pixels by 200 pixels in this area are all orange. So it needs to store less data just by storing groups of pixels rather than every individual pixel. So that's how it was able to shrink it down in size by half. So key things for the exam regarding compression software. This software reduces the size of files for sending and storage purposes. It uses something called a compression algorithm, which spots patterns of repeated data. They can then be decompressed using a decompression algorithm. On to backup utilities. This is a screenshot of a great free piece of backing up software which synchronizes files between, say, my C drive and an external hard drive or a network drive, so that I know that my work is always safely backed up whenever I run this program. I also use cloud-based storage solutions. So there's some examples of some well-known ones. SkyDrive is now known as OneDrive, and I have OneDrive installed on my computer. Effectively, you set up a folder on your disk and you tell the software that you install on your computer where that folder is. And there's my OneDrive folder. Everything in there gets backed up to the cloud. So files within that folder will have a little tick on them if they've already been copied to the cloud, or a little sync recycled blue arrow sort of icon if they still need to be sent to the cloud. What the software does is it sits in the icon tray at the bottom, and it will wait for any changes to be made to a file, and then you just see it flashing away, and that's it copying those changes into the web, into the cloud. And you can go to find out where those files are and get them if you need them by clicking on the icon and going to the onedrive.com link, and then your cloud looks something like this. It's just a website where you can access those backed up files. Things you'll need to know about backup for the exam include that it prevents data loss by automatically making copies of files to other hardware and at regular intervals. Backup programs offer what we call algorithms, such as a full backup, or part backup, such as incremental or differential, and it's good to know a little bit about those as well. The final utility that we'll look at is probably one of the best known utilities, and that's an antivirus program. To understand an antivirus program, we need to know what a virus is. If we look at virus in its most general terms, we'll see that it's an infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cells of other organisms, and replicates is a key word here. And if we look up computer virus, we'll see that sources say it is a malware program that, when executed, replicates by inserting copies of itself into other computer programs, etc. Closely related to the computer virus is the worm. This also replicates itself, but unlike a computer virus, it does not need to attach itself to an existing program. And also closely related is the Trojan horse, which is also malicious software, but is non-replicating. I would deem all those three things as types of computer virus programs that are meant to do harm, as I would also things like adware, the little pop-ups that we see that we don't want on our screen, or spyware that runs in the background, maybe spying on our web browsing behavior. So computer virus could be quite a broad term for a dangerous computer program, and we could bear in mind that computer viruses can be written by extremely experienced computer hackers with lots of expertise, or even a novice with the most simplest of programming languages such as VBA. But essentially, all these malicious programs intend to exact some harm on somebody's computer, whether that be deleting all their emails or files off their hard drive, or completely making their computer malfunction and deleting everything off a hard drive, for example. There are hundreds of antivirus programs available on the market that know about existing computer viruses and can be updated with the latest information about the latest viruses, so they can be identified on somebody's computer and got rid of. When loaded, this is what an antivirus program might look like. This is actually a free one that is readily available on the internet called AVG. So you can see it's telling me it's going to protect my computer, it's going to protect my email, it's going to protect my web browser. A firewall is similar to an antivirus program, but certainly is specific to internet activity and the type of files you can download, the size of files that you can download, the sort of websites that you can go to. What an antivirus program does once installed is probably just sit on your taskbar at the bottom of the screen monitoring activity on your computer. So if you create a new file, or you download a new file, or you copy a new file onto your computer, it'll check it real time for any malicious content, any viruses, and And then if you want to actually go into it and do something with the settings of the antivirus software, then you would probably right click on it and open it. Here is a screenshot of a scan happening on a hard drive. So it might be looking right through a user's C drive manually to check for any viruses. And here is where it may have found a malicious program, in this case a Trojan horse, and has successfully removed any of the threat from that infected file. Here's the antivirus program once it's finished downloading virus definition updates of new viruses from the internet. That's something you should do regularly with your antivirus program. Things to do with antivirus programs that we need to know for the exam. Well, first of all, you might need to know a definition of a virus. We said that there could be lots of things before, but in terms of the exam board, we just need to say that they are programs designed to copy themselves between and within computers to make the computers unreliable, and that antivirus programs are used to detect and remove viruses. With regards to any further reading to do with utilities, a nice place to go would be the internet, and sites like 2Cows are really good for finding some really useful freeware utility that you can download for free and install and use that could really help maintain your computer. You could also do some reading about some of the more famous viruses that have struck down computer systems over the years. But for this video, that's it for today. Hope you found that all useful.